Okay, so this is the difference between what I do compared to the standard video, Versodile's video for the sew-online patterns. And the reason I've made some changes is not because there's anything wrong with the other video, but because I make a lot of these because I'm running a business. So I've just done some things to kind of streamline the process. So the first difference is that rather than kind of in the video, she kind of roughly cut out around the pattern, I don't do that. I actually tear my fabric. First of all, tearing is a lot faster than cutting. I'll show you here. And this is actually something that they taught us in a fabric store to keep a straight, when I worked in a fabric store, to keep a straight edge on woven fabrics. So you just cut it whatever, length or width you want, and you just tear the rest. And it's just like that. I can do a whole 2 yards of flannel in a couple seconds. So I cut everything or tear everything into rectangles that are the correct size, and then I just draw my sew line on that. That's a lot faster for me than trying to cut out around the whole thing. It does mean that I waste more material, but again, I'm doing this in bulk, so time is more important. The next thing that I do is just like the video, I just trace the pattern on there, just like this. And so when I tear these, I always make it about 7.5 to 8 inches wide, so that gives me about an inch clearance on the wings, and I always make it 2 inches longer than the pattern. So this is 12 inch, so this should be 14 inch. It's probably a bit longer, but that's fine. So I get, a big stack of these flannels, such as this humongous stack, it's probably like 100 in here. These are all set up for 12-inch pads. Then I do the same thing with the backing. I like to use pull, P-U-L on these ones, and a lot of my customers have been wanting hidden pull, so I just put an extra layer. To do, regular pull, you would have your back, sandwich it with your back, sandwich it with your top, and your core would be on top, and you would sew around. Hidden pull, basically the same. You just put that extra layer of flannel or whatever, in this case it's flannel, in there, do this, and then you sew around it, and it's basically the same after that. So it's not a big time difference. But anyway, so I tear these into rectangles, I tear the flannel backing into rectangles, and these I have to cut also into rectangles. So I just start with a stack of rectangles. Then for the core, I use Zorb, and I'm mainly making heavies. Those are most popular. So these are 2 layers of Zorb, and when you get the Zorb, it's already folded together, so I don't even unfold it. I just use it straight off the bolt. It doesn't need to be pre-washed. And I can't find my core piece, so I'll just use this one. I just put that on top, trace, and cut. I could use a rotary cutter if I wanted to. I find that actually slows me down with these, because these are all straight angles. It's just really fast with scissors. So that's what I do. And then once I've cut them, I just stick pins in them to remind me that, hey, this is a heavy core, I need both layers. So another difference with the video, she was only doing a single layer core, so she didn't do this step, but I actually go in and I use a machine basting stitch, a 5.0 length, and I just go all the way around the edge, and then it's just one unit that's, ready to go. So I've got my flannel, which I've drawn on. And one thing about drawing on this, because I see a lot of people asking, there's my box. I use these. These are just Crayola washable markers. I like the Pipsqueak Skinnies because you get a lot of colors in a box, and they wash out 100%. I've done tests on pure white fabric, and there is absolutely no trace of this stuff left, no matter what color I've used. It's amazing. So these are what I use. Trace around the pattern, and it all comes out in the wash. So here I would have my core that's basted together, the flannel, sew on the line just drawn on there, put it on there, sew it down, put on the backing. Basically everything else is the same. The next thing that I do differently is when it's time to cut it out, she used pinking shears around the whole thing, which again I can't find. I find pinking shears are harder on my hands, and again I'm doing a lot of these, so anywhere that I have a straight line, I use regular scissors. And on this pattern, everything is a straight line, so I use regular scissors everywhere. If this was a curved pattern, if this top was curved, I would use straight scissors along all of these lines, and then I would come back and do the curved part only with the pinking shears. So I do all that. I don't trim my corners. I don't trim the bulk off that. Actually, I may have one here to show you. I don't, but basically I go like this. I trim to, I'd say, about 1/4 of an inch, just like this. Like this. And you know, and I do that all the way around. These corners are fine, and those corners are fine. All of these corners are fine. They don't need to be trimmed when it's cut to about 1/4 of an inch. For here, I do cut in to the stitch line. I'm not going to do that because I wouldn't be able to sew that if I do that. But I cut in, you know, pretty close to the stitch line on those, just like in the video. But I don't come as close around the edge as she was coming. She was coming like really close around all the edges. I don't feel the need to do that, and I don't find that my seams are bulky. So I just do it this way. So I tend, because again, in bulk, I tend to do like an assembly line thing. So I prep a whole huge stack of tops, draw on them all, prep a whole huge stack of backs, cut out a ton of these cores. I just kind of lay it down, trace, and then I cut them all out in a row, stick my pins in and baste them all. And then I can just kind of sandwich them and go, you know, step by step. So yeah, I mean, it's all about efficiency for me. I'm okay with a little bit more waste of, you know, doing that. Maybe over the course of like a yard, maybe I could get 1 or 2 extra if I wasn't cutting it into a rectangle, but this saves me so much time that it's worth it. So that's how I do things a little bit differently from the other video.